Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back with another live stream today. We're going to be talking about the state of the market here along the Wasatch Front, everything from Provo to Salt Lake to Park City to Ogden to Tooele, anywhere here in northern Utah. Basically, we're going to be covering what's going on with the market, what we're seeing over the past couple of weeks, and what we expect to see over the coming months as we head into spring and then into summer. We've had some changes in interest rates lately, and we're seeing some slight changes in the market since we last talked. Roughly 2 weeks ago, I think was the last time I did a live stream. So we're going to be talking about the market. I've got some information I'm going to be showing you here on the screen. And then we're also going to talk about what we have. We have a special guest on here with us tonight. And we're going to be talking about what he's going to be doing for us and just everything you need to know with that. So we're going to we're going to start into this here in just a second. I'm going to pull this up on my phone here. With just some notes for us here tonight. And then we'll get going. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to bring Randy into the video here.
Let's go.
This is Randy. He is with us here. All right, cool. Let me just get this set up. All right, so what I want to talk about, so first, I guess I'll probably introduce Randy first, and then we'll talk about the market so you guys know who this guy is that's here on the chat with us. So Randy is going to be working with me to help cover some of the northern cities, specifically the northern counties for Davis and Weber County. He's going to be working Davis County and Weber County, and then, of course, maybe even Cache County or some of the surrounding areas, just depending on buyers' needs, right? Whoever's reaching out. So I've known Randy for probably about 4 years or so. I originally met Randy. He wanted to buy a house from me. And then he said, nah, Cody, I'm going to buy my own house. And he got licensed, and here we are. So he got into the business, bought his own house, and has been selling real estate ever since. And it just kind of came back around that recently I said, hey, I need somebody that's up north that can help me with this. It's a little bit of a drive from where I'm at. And so I needed to get somebody that could cover that area. And it just happened that Randy currently lives not too far from me, but is making the move up north to be closer to his wife's future job. So he is in the process of selling his home and buying a new one right in the smack dab, basically right between Davis and Weber County. So that's going to be perfect if you're looking in Ogden or Kaysville, Layton, Bountiful, any of those surrounding cities. He's going to be your go-to guy. So what we're going to do is you'll see him on future videos. He's going to be posting on the channel as well. Basically, it's going to be a situation where we'll throw the videos up there. If you're interested, you'll still reach out. I'll get all your initial information. We'll kind of make sure that you're looking in his area. And then once that comes up, I'm going to say, look, Randy, take the reins. You take it from here. And, he'll help you with looking at houses there in that area. So I'm putting my trust in him to help you guys with the relocation. Cool thing about him is also that he has personally made the move to Utah from out of state, right? So for myself, I've talked about this a lot here on the channel, that I was born and raised here in Sandy, and I actually lived all over Salt Lake County over the past 7 or 8 years, and ended up back in Sandy about a year ago. So for me, I've lived in Utah my entire life, and this is what I know. As far as living here, I have a very deep understanding of it. But the thing that I've kind of been missing is that I don't necessarily have a super good understanding of what it's like to actually move here. So that's one thing I really, appreciate from Randy's perspective, is like he made that move here from Florida. How many years ago was that?
I moved in 2015. Yeah.
2015. Okay, so it's been about 6 years or so. And so you made that move personally. So I think you can speak from a different perspective of here's what you need to know if you're making that move again, right? You might have some advice as to do this, don't do that. You need to know about this because this is different than I was expecting, or whatever it may be. So hopefully, Randy, you can throw in your thoughts here along as we go. So basically with that said, do you want to introduce yourself? You got anything to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, you basically covered it. I moved here from Florida initially in 2015. I was following my college sweetheart. So she moved out here in 2013, and we did long distance for a little while, but I followed her out here to go to school at the U. So it was a fun transition, doing schooling for a little bit. And then, my wife and I were wanting to make some family adjustments. So we decided to jump in the real estate game. I decided to get there, and she decided to continue pursuing her schooling while I did real estate. And so now that our schooling's over, she's transitioning to a nice job, and I'm going to be, moving north to work on real estate and building my business out there. So.
Right on. Right on. That's really cool, man. So real quick, Claudia, welcome to the live stream here. You're asking about a good interest rate. So we're going to be talking about that. What I want to say on interest rates is we have seen them tick up. Right now, from what I've seen on the quotes that I'm looking at, I'm seeing the interest rates are, they're going to vary based on the loan type that you see, right? You're going to get conventional. I'm seeing anywhere from like 2.9% all the way up to maybe 3.4, 3.5%, depending on credit, down payment, and debt to income ratio, some other factors in there as well. So conventional being the most popular loan product, that's what you can expect, somewhere between 2.9 and 3.4, 3.5. VA and FHA will be slightly lower. VA I know is like somewhere between 2.5 and 3%. I don't have the FHA rates right offhand. Do you know what they are, Randy, right now? Do you know what they're?
I do not. No, I was.
Okay. They're going to be somewhere in that same range. They're going to be like probably 2.5, 2.8, 2.9, 3%, somewhere in there. So it's actually a little bit better rate. That's the thing you need to know. It does usually give you a little bit better rate than conventional, but FHA does have some downsides. Typically, they're a little bit more restrictive on some of the financing terms, but mostly on the private mortgage insurance. The downside with private mortgage insurance on FHA is that it does not drop off unless you refinance, whereas with conventional, it will drop off it once you've got 20% equity in the property. So there's some differences there with the different loan types. That's kind of why, it's a big factor in why the interest rates will vary there. But nevertheless, that's kind of what we're looking at with that. So first, let's talk about the current state of the market, and then we'll talk about where we see the market going here in just a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to share my screen, and I'm going to show you guys some data here, and let's see if we can pull this up. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do here, let's zoom in. This is the statistic data that we looked at from last year, and you can see here that the columns don't have titles, but I've got this basically memorized. So I'll just kind of go through it here with you guys. This number right here, 1,970, is how many homes sold across Utah County, Salt Lake County, and Davis County. So for myself, when I'm running these numbers, I like to look at those three counties because that kind of gives you a breakdown of what each of the counties is doing. Hey, what's up, Johnny? It's good to see you here, man. Thanks for joining in. So Davis County, Salt Lake County, and Utah County. That's the information that we're looking at here. This is all homes, condos, townhomes, single family, everything across the board. That's the information we're looking at here. So 1,970 homes sold. This is the total sales volume right here. The asking price, the median asking price was just at, let's say, 390,000. The actual sales price was at 403,843. That's the median price. The important thing that you want to look at here is this number right here, which is 104%. This is showing on average, or I should say on the median, what the sales price is to the original listing price. So if you just took this, if you took any average home, let's say it's listed at $100,000, it's going to sell, on a median basis, it's going to sell for $104,000. So you can see this difference here. And this is really just because we have so much demand in the market that homes are getting into bidding wars and they're getting bid up. I know it sucks to hear that, but it's kind of just the state of the market. And so, that's what you have to know. If you're making that move here, I just want you to have a realistic expectation of where the market's at. Because I talk to a lot of people and they want to know that stuff. And that's one thing that I've always kind of prided myself on. And I get a lot of people who appreciate that. They say, look, Cody, I called you because you just tell it how it is, whether it's good news or it's bad news. That's what I like to hear. So, that's just kind of how we roll. So 104% for the sales data. This is your median square footage, your price per square foot, which I don't really care about these two things necessarily. You've got average bedroom count, 4-3. This basically never changes across the board, 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. And then this last column is for your cumulative days on market. So days on market, you can see, has continued to drop in single digits here in the winter months is very abnormal. I mean, if we scroll up here and take a look at the winter months of last year, you can see that from, basically October through, let's say, March, kind of like those main winter months, our days on market was 27, 32, 34, 35, 28. And then it kind of starts to drop as we go into the summer months. But here in the winter months, I mean, last month in February, average or cumulative days on market is at 5 days. So that's all homes across the board. That means that most homes, probably 75-80% are selling within 48 hours. They come on the market, you've got 1 or 2 days of showings, and then it goes under contract right away. You will have some homes that sit on the market, maybe because they're overpriced or because they're in really rough shape, or maybe they're out in a rural part of the state, and they land on our MLS, and maybe homes just aren't selling quite as much there, or as quickly there just because of the demand. But across the board, 5 days on market is just absolutely insane. The market's kind of crazy right now, and we're going to be talking a little bit about where the market's going and how sustainable this might be over the long run. So, Randy, what do you have to add?
Yeah, no, as someone who's selling their personal home in this market, it's definitely crazy. I mean, I have buyers I'm working with right now, and I think that the point we have to tell them is that over asking is the new asking price, right? It's crazy. There are so few homes, and I think there are very few remedies to the situation at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that right now, with where the market's going, I look at the market personally and I think, okay, this comes down to a basic supply and demand issue. When there's so much demand and there's not enough supply, that's what drives prices up, and that's what drives homes to sell very quickly. So that's really what it comes down to. So when I look at this, I'm like, okay, either supply needs to go up significantly to meet the demand or exceed it, or the demand needs to drop so much that it matches the supply, right? Those two things kind of need to come level and actually level out. The one variable that I would say that's in there is that you do have interest rates, which will kind of affect the potential borrowing power of buyers in the market, right? Because if interest rates go down, you can now afford a much higher home price with a lower payment, right? So if you want to keep your payments at, let's say, $2,000 per month, if interest rates drop, you can now afford, let's say, maybe a $400,000 home instead of a $375,000 home. So this is also what's kind of pushing the market up, is as people can afford more, they might be looking at a $375,000 house, and that might turn into $400,000 just because they've got a lower interest rate. So if we work that in reverse, it basically comes out to, if we take that $400,000 house, but now interest rates have ticked up and they're at 3.5% instead of 3%. Now maybe that one buyer who is looking at that $400,000 house can't, afford that anymore, and they need to go back to a $375,000 house or something. So those are the things that I see in the market that will, potentially change where we're at. I think that we've got the supply either has to come up, which I think it will as we go into the summer months, or the demand has to drop. And I don't see that happening. I think that there's so much demand for people moving into the state, and just people who are renting, who are thinking, hey, 2021 is the year that I need to buy a house. And so I think there's so much demand there, and there's just not enough supply. And interest rates, in my personal opinion, they did tick up recently. I don't suspect that they'll go up pretty, significantly for at least another year or two. It's a little hard to forecast out any further than that. But in my own opinion, I'm thinking they're probably going to stay in this low 3% range, at least through the end of this year. And, after that, it's really hard to say, because who knows what could happen, right? Maybe there's another pandemic or World War III or something, it's like, who knows what's going on. So anyway, that's kind of just my take on where we're at, and, what we're kind of expecting to see as far as supply and demand goes. So Johnny's got a question. We'll jump into a couple questions here. Fixers going for over asking price as well. Yes, they are. Johnny, I talked to a lot of investor buddies, and they've got the same problem. They're saying, look, so many of these fixer uppers are going for above the asking price that there's no room to really build that equity in the property, or there's very little room, right? There's still deals out there. There's still people buying and selling homes, but those margins are just getting tighter. So we are seeing fixers for going over the asking price, and it is getting a little bit tougher. I don't know. Are you seeing the same thing, Randy?
Yeah, no, as someone who my first year in the business really prided myself on working with investors, my investor business in terms of active MLS listings has definitely trickled down. It's just so hard because the market's so saturated with buyers, it's hard to find a deal in terms of an investor side, right? I mean, someone who is desperate to find a house is willing to replace carpet, right? Willing to paint the walls because there's nothing there. and it's crazy. So yeah, no, every fixer I've seen going over market value, people are willing to take the chance and work on it themselves than try and buy it on the high side when an investor gets a hold of it. So
yeah, and that's the market we're at, where if you can buy a fixer for, let's say, 350, or you can find that finished home that's 400. A lot of people are looking at the $400,000 house and they'd love to buy it, but that one's getting bid up to 425, 430, 440, 450 maybe. And so it can push it out of that price range. So a lot of these people are reverting back to the fixer uppers and just saying, well, I'm just going to have to work on it over time. And it is what it is type of thing. So, anyway, James, what's up? Excited to be heading out there this spring to take a look. Yeah, come on out, man. The weather's getting nice. We're almost into spring and things are looking good. So the other thing that I want to point out to you guys here is the absorption rate. So right now the absorption rate is for active listings for what we're seeing come onto the market. We're currently sitting at, let me see if this is updated here. So I'm just looking at this information on my other screen here. We're currently sitting with 3,000 properties that are under contract, 200 in backup. That looks like it might be a typo. Let's see here. Sold properties. So 2,800 have sold over the last 2 months, which is down. That's only 1,400 properties per month from what I'm seeing here. And active listings. Let me see if I can pull up how many active listings we've had. Or how many we have on the market. So again, for these 3 counties, we've got Salt Lake, Utah, and Davis. We're currently sitting at just 937 active listings. So if there was no new listings to come onto the market, I mean, basically everything would sell out over the next 30 days. So like the absorption rate of what's on the market is extremely high. Usually they'll say, in a normal market, if we look back 1 or 2 years, I would say that we'd see about 1 to 2 months worth of inventory at least. I mean, that's even on the low side. I would say in a traditional normal market where it's not just kind of crazy, there's not an area that's booming so much, we're probably looking at like 3 months. So the fact that this is under 1 month of inventory is just really kind of crazy. So I'm hoping that there will be more homes coming onto the market. I'm hoping that as we kind of reopen up and the pandemic kind of comes to an end, hopefully, and summer rolls around, we're going to see inventory really pick up, and there's going to be a lot of people looking to make a move, perhaps because these are the people that were unable to make a move last year due to health concerns or jobs or family issues or, anything in the market. So I'm hoping that we'll see more stuff come to the market over the next couple of months, but it's a little bit tough to say where we're at right now because I'm just seeing so much demand in the market that I'm worried that even if supply goes up, demand is still way up here, and the supply, even if it comes up, it's still not going to meet that demand mark. So if you guys have questions, make sure to drop your questions in the comment section, and we'll be answering them here over the next little bit. So just post a comment there, and we'll throw it up here on the screen, and we'll both give our input about it. So if you got questions about areas or loans or houses or anything like that, just let us know. Claudia asks, what happens if you put in an offer $20,000 more than an asking price and the appraisal comes in at a much lower price? So that is a very good question. One that we're running into quite a bit right now. I know that Randy's dealing with this issue. What do you mean?
I mean, I personally think we're running into this because like the appraisers obviously are held to a high standard, and they're playing the past, right? I mean, that's what an appraiser has to do. They have to base the current price on what's happened in the past. And there are so few homes that like they have to say, well, your home is based on this whole home that sold 3 months ago, but like you said there are fewer than 1,000 homes for sale in 3 counties. 3 counties. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, between the realtors you and I both know, we could probably find 1,000 buyers between you, me, and 2 other people, right? Like it's insane. So I don't know if there's a way to fix the appraisal issues, but they're definitely coming up a lot. And it's because the appraisers are having to base the price on the past.
Yeah, exactly. So the appraisers are looking at past data, which is what they're supposed to do. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
But in Claudia, I'll get to your question here in just a minute. I'm just we want to give some context as to what's actually occurring. So with appraisals, they're looking at past data, which is what they're supposed to do. And the market is moving so quickly, and there's so few homes that are selling, that the market has the actual market value, which is what a buyer is willing to buy it for and a seller is willing to sell for. That actual value has gone up so quickly that the appraisals do not match that, right? The appraiser is really there to protect the bank, to basically say to the bank, look, you're loaning $400,000 on an actual $400,000 home. The home is actually worth that, right? And so that's kind of the bank's reassurance that that's what they're paying. So, or that's what they're loaning on, that they have the collateral to back up that loan. So the market has just moved so quick that we are seeing appraisals come in low. So what do you do at that point, right? What happens if you put in an offer for more and then the appraisal comes in low? Well, you've got a couple of options. In the past, most often what happened is the buyer would go back to the seller and say, hey, look, I know I said I was going to pay $400,000, but the appraisal only came in at $380,000. We need to drop the price. And as a buyer's agent, for me representing a buyer, I would make the argument, look, the appraiser says that's all the house is worth. We're not going to pay more than that. However, in this market, that doesn't really work anymore. The seller, basically, we're seeing offers get put in where buyers are having to agree to pay more than the appraised price in order to get the deal closed. I mean, I over the last 6 months, I've had 2 deals fall out of contract because the appraisal did come in low and the seller was unwilling to negotiate, and the buyer just didn't have any more funds to be able to bridge that gap, right? And so you're kind of running into issues. So we try to handle those things up front to mitigate that risk of running into an issue later on. But the reality is that oftentimes right now, I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, it usually ends up with the buyer having to cover the difference, or that difference being split between the buyer and the seller, right? Maybe the buyer pitches in 10,000 and the seller drops the price 10,000, and that's how you meet in the middle. Maybe the buyer covers all 20,000. Maybe you get super lucky and the seller just drops the price to the asking price. I haven't seen that personally over the last, I don't know, probably 6-9 months. I'm sure it happens, but anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing. So those are really your only options when that happens. All right. So James brings up a good point. Yeah. Checking local comps before making an offer. That is a very good point, right? Anytime before I recommend somebody put in an offer, I always look at the comparables of what's selling in that area just to make sure that we're in the right ballpark. It's good to look at the comparables for that area, because it's going to tell you what other homes are selling for and what the appraisal is likely to come in at during that time. So if we go and look at a place and it's 400,000 and I pull up the comparables and the comparables also say 400,000, that gives you a pretty good idea that they've listed it where it should be as far as the market goes. But again, 90% of the time I am seeing that the market is buyers in the market are going to bid that up. And there's a really good chance it's, you're going to see offers for 410, 420, 430, maybe even higher, just depending on the house and location and all of that. So just something to kind of keep in mind there.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of have your finger on the pulse there, Cody. And I mean, it's not even necessarily sold homes anymore. I was, as someone who's selling my house currently, I had to go to the market as it is and say, hey, you listed a house, it hasn't closed yet. Can you give me some more information so that I can price my house right? I mean, yours is going to close at this. I don't want to start a bid anymore. I'd rather start at a good price than drive the market up. So I now know they're going to close in the next few days. So by the time an appraiser comes out to my property, I know that there are comps in place to support that value. And yeah. I think that's the problem we're running into, is that some agents are basing it on, what's there and sold, where you really have to go into the market as it's moving and ask the under contracts and those that are in backup status, like, hey, I have this house that's really similar. I mean, you have some granite countertops. I can kind of adjust the price for that. Can you give me some more information without compromising your seller on where I should be?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? You have to you have to be in tune with the market, and you kind of have to play it by ear, and things are changing every day. And there might be a house that comes up tomorrow that you can use as a comparable. There might be a house that closes tomorrow. So it's just one of those things you have to, you have to keep your finger on the trigger, like you said, kind of. Quick market, that's for sure. Johnny, your question: is Salt Lake more competitive than Davis when it comes to bidding wars? From what I have seen, I'm seeing that it really depends on the house. I would say it's probably equally crazy everywhere. The house will determine a lot, though, right? If you've got a really great house, it's remodeled, it's nice, it's updated, and it's in that, let's say, $300,000 to $500,000 price range where most of the buyers are shopping, there's a good chance you're going to see multiple offers. So it kind of depends on the demographic. It kind of depends on the house, price range, location, all of that stuff. But that being said, basically anywhere along the Wasatch Front, there's going to be multiple offers. I mean, down south in Utah County, we're seeing multiple offers. In Tooele County, we're seeing multiple offers. Park City seeing multiple offers. Davis, Weber, Cache County, everything up north is seeing multiple offers. If the home is priced right, it's in a good location, and it's in good shape, you're almost guaranteed to get showings and probably at least a couple offers right off the bat. That's just how much demand there is. And, I've never seen anything like it. So it's kind of crazy out there.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. I agree with you on that. I think the fact that the first time home buyers range has moved up so substantially. So I bought my current home in 2016 as a first time home buyer in terms of rolling up from a condo that was a little bit cheaper. We bought a single family home in the 200s, the low 200s. I don't know that you can find a condo, like a starter condo for that right now. The market's just that crazy. So to see such a big swing in what first time home buyers are, moving from the low twos to, I'd say, the mid threes is probably where most first time home buyers are shopping right now, if not higher than that. It is pretty crazy in the course of 4 years, right? That's $100,000 swing.
Yeah.
So it's in the first time home buyer market right now. I think it is just so competitive regardless of where you go. I think you could go 70 miles in either direction of Salt Lake City Central and probably be bidding wars everywhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I've thought about that too, thinking back to when I bought my first place. I think a lot of that comes from just the general movement of the market, right? Almost every single market across the United States has gone up over the last 4, 5, 6 years. So that's one part of it. But also another part of it is it's just the reality of where we're at now, especially with the interest rates. Interest rates have dropped from where they were. I mean, I think back in 2017, 2018, and even the years before that, going back to 2016 or 2015, the interest rates at that time were closer to 4.5%. I think they even got close to 5% at one time I think it was near the end of 2018. I could be wrong, but I think so. And so interest rates were so much higher. So as they've come down, and then, interest rates basically crashed going into the pandemic. I mean, they came down over 1% within just a couple months. So that alone really gave people the buying power to be able to purchase something at a higher price point, which gave them the ability to not be looking at, let's say $300,000 homes, but now they're looking at 350, or maybe they go from 600,000 and now they're looking at 700,000, that type of thing. That's where I'm seeing the biggest difference just over the last couple of years. So, it's kind of crazy out there. If you guys have questions, drop a comment. I'm going to pull up some other information here about what's going on in the market. If you guys have questions about Salt Lake County, Utah County, Davis County, location, anything like that, make sure to leave us a comment. I'm going to pull up the Google Maps here. I always like taking a look at Google Maps in our area and just kind of showing you guys a little bit about the area. And then just kind of showing you guys what's relevant. So we're going to do that here in just a second. The other thing I want to talk about actually is what we're seeing in the market with how things are opening back up for the pandemic and everything. I know that in Texas, they're it's back to normal there, basically, no masks, everything's open. At least that's what I've heard. And, I've got people telling me. So here in Utah, we are, as far as I know, almost every single area is still required to wear masks anywhere indoor that's a public space. They do recommend wearing them if you're outside and you can't social distance, that type of thing. But as far as business goes, I mean, it's basically everything's back to normal. Businesses are open. They might have adjusted hours or something, but everything's back to normal with being open and what they have to offer. Everything from gyms to restaurants to even entertainment venues. I know that like movie theaters are open, and so it's kind of like it's a little weird because everybody's still wearing masks, and that's just the market that we're in. But it's getting to that point where everything is opening back up, and hopefully, the COVID cases will continue to drop, and we'll just continue to get back to a place where we can get back to kind of that normal life. So that's kind of what we're seeing there. Claudia has a question about the market in Sandy. So I will answer this because I live in Sandy. Same thing, honestly, Claudia. Like the same thing about Sandy is that we're seeing the market move pretty quickly. Most of the homes in Sandy, single family homes, you're going to be looking somewhere between like probably 450 to 800 for the median, like, the for 80% of the market, right? Of course, there's going to be some homes that are kind of on the smaller end, and then there's going to be homes that are like $1 million plus. You can find those out there. But for Sandy specifically, you're probably looking somewhere, your median price is probably like 550, 600, 650, somewhere in there, just depending on where you're at in Sandy. It will vary. Sandy does range all the way from State Street. Let me pull this up here. I'll kind of show you because it's going to vary a little bit. So come over here. All right. So if we scroll down here or zoom in, let me go over here. All right. So you've got Sandy right here. And the thing I want to point out just real quick, because I get this question pretty often, White City is not technically a city. It's more of a neighborhood within Sandy, even though it's called White City. So anyway, just got to throw that out there. Sandy does range basically everything from here east of I-15, even it's slightly to the west. I think the border kind of runs along this river right here. So everything east of here would be considered Sandy. So Sandy will come up all the way here, all the way to the East Bench, and then kind of wraps back around roughly here, which is, about 86 south, probably even a little bit higher, probably up into like 78 south, give or take up here. So this whole area is considered Sandy. You do have a couple different areas that are to note here in Sandy. You've got Dimple Dell Regional Park, which is a huge park where you can go hiking. You can ride horses there. It's a really cool area, actually, and something you want to note if you're interested in this area. But the houses down here closer to State Street and closer to the interstate will be on the cheaper end. And then as you move further east, it does get more expensive, especially as you move up here onto the eastern side, onto the Bench. It does get more expensive up here. That's where you're going to find the $1 million home. So right in the middle, 550, 650 for your median prices. That's kind of what we're seeing so far there in Sandy. Johnny's got a question. What's the highest over asking price that you've seen? What have you seen, Randy? How high have you seen?
I haven't personally seen the 50K over yet with someone willing to cover. But on offers, it's not out of the norm to see 20,000 over asking in most instances. I mean, I priced my home where I thought I was pushing the market, and I got 20,000 over. So I mean, it's crazy what buyers are willing to do to get into a house right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, on that note, I think that that's where it really comes down to. I was talking to a mortgage broker today, and I said, the unfortunate thing right now is that you can basically just list your house for like whatever you want, and people are almost willing to make offers based on that. And that's where you have to be really careful with the agent that you're working with. I like James mentioned earlier, like you have to pull comps to know where the market's at, because if somebody prices a home at 400,000 or they price it at 450, you really need to know what the value is and how to play that strategically to make sure that you're not overpaying. Because I'm seeing a lot of agents, especially the ones who are maybe not so savvy or just overlook stuff, where they'll just say, oh yeah, that's what they listed it at, so we're going to have to go in stronger. And maybe it's way overpriced to begin with. Even if it's a great home, it could be overpriced. So you really have to kind of know the market. And, I think that's something that Randy and I would both do, not to toot our own horn, but, basically we're just like, you got to be careful. You got to pull the comps regardless of where they've got it listed at, because you don't want to end up in that spot where, you're still offering like 20,000 over, and it's already overpriced by 30,000, let's say. So, it's kind of crazy. Johnny, I've seen as high as 80,000. This was probably back in, I would guess probably November, December timeframe. I saw it was a house in Yellcrest, which is a very exclusive area. Great house. Is right on Michigan Avenue. My buyer made an offer. I think we offered 50 or 60,000. I can't remember the exact amount. We offered 50 or 60,000 over, and unfortunately did not get the house. And later came to find out that it sold for somewhere between, I think it was 80,000 over the asking price, which honestly was, I think, given the market, I'm not surprised. So it's kind of crazy.
Do you think that comes from the exclusivity of the area, Cody? The turnover rate in Yellcrest is pretty low.
It's extremely low.
Or do you think it's just the market we're in?
Yeah, I think both. I think it's partially just the market we're in, but it's also exacerbated. I think that's the word. It's exaggerated because of that area. If you're on Michigan, or you're on Harvard, or you're on Yale, or you're on Princeton, any of those streets in that area, especially further east you go, you're going to be paying a premium. And I mean, even if it's a small house, 1950s or anything like that, there's low turnover, and it's just such a desirable area. It's so nice. You drive down that street and you can see why people are willing to pay premium.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous area for sure.
Yeah. Shawindi69 has a question. Yes, you can negotiate the price down if you pay cash. It's going to depend a little bit on the seller's situation and what they're looking for, right? So it'll kind of depend on, the way you have to look at it is, of course, price is probably always going to be the biggest driver for accepting an offer, right? That's the whole goal of like selling your home. As the seller, when you look at it from their perspective, you're trying to get the highest price possible, right? That's the end goal, is like, you want to sell it for the most money, right? Who wouldn't want to do that? But at the end of the day, it also depends on the terms of the deal as well, right? So if you have cash, it's considered more of a sure thing, especially if it's not contingent upon an appraisal. So if you have cash, you could potentially negotiate a better deal. Let's just take an example. Let's say that you've got a house and you list it for, or it's listed for 600,000. Well, somebody else might be willing to offer 650, but they need to go get a loan. They need to do an appraisal. They need to go through all of that. Well, if you have cash, honestly, you're probably still not going to get it below the asking price. You might get it at the asking price, but right now for the sellers, they'd probably take the risk on a higher offer, even if it's contingent upon financing and an appraisal. So you probably won't get it for cheaper. You might get it at the asking price, but ultimately you might get it at a number that is not the highest price overall. So in this example, you might offer 625, and let's say it's all cash. You could still get the house, even if somebody offered 650, because the seller might be looking at it and say, hey, we'll just take the 625 and run. We'll close in 2 weeks and we're done. There's no, we don't have to worry about anything, popping up for inspections or for appraisal, or financing contingencies or anything like that. So to some people, cash will be, a big factor in being able to get the house, but not necessarily have to be the highest price on the house. All right, so got a question here. Bought a half-acre property in the 84104 zip code area. Out-of-state investor. How does this area look to you? So 84104, that's got to be close to downtown. Let me just pull that up here. I know that all the 8410 X's are close to downtown. Okay, so that's in Poplar Grove or Glendale. What kind of property is it? If you don't mind sharing. Is it a residential property or is it commercial? Because that's going to be, or is it just land? Yeah, I mean, what's the zoning on it? Is it retail? If you can give me a little more context, I can, talk to you about that. Give you my thoughts. There is a lot of commercial and industrial in that area. It's close to the airport. It's going to be close to where the new prison's at. So depending on what type of property it is, I can give you some context as to what I see going on there. Let's see. Hopefully that's better. Okay. So yeah. So you did say it's residential. Juan, I'll come back to your question in just a second. So it is residential. My thoughts on residential in this area, I see this area going through a lot of growth. Traditionally, I have to be a little bit careful what I say here, but traditionally, the west side of Salt Lake has been kind of the rougher side of downtown, right? Every city's got their good side. Every city's got their rough side. The west side, just for whatever reason, kind of became the rougher side. The east side became the nice side. However, with that with my disclaimer on there, I do have to say that I think that the west side of Salt Lake is going to see a lot of revitalization over the next 5, 10, 15 years, just because it's so close to downtown. If you look at any other major city, whether it's Seattle or it's Los Angeles or it's Denver, Colorado, or it's Phoenix or it's whatever, like any of these major cities, Austin, Dallas, if you look at these cities, the properties that are closest to downtown, after a long enough time, they always go up in value just because people want to live close to the city. Now, people can argue, okay, well, because of the pandemic, everybody's getting out of the city. Or you could say on the flip side, well, all these millennials, all these younger generation, they want to live in the city. They don't want to live in the rural areas, right? Well, you can look at it from a number of different ways, but I think the important thing is that there will always be a demand for people who want to live close to the city. And especially here along the Wasatch Front, we see so much suburban sprawl. Everybody's kind of spread out. We don't really like high density stuff. I think there's going to be so many people living that want to live close to downtown that you're going to be, just fine with residential property there. Again, that zip code, can cover basically everything from I-15. It looks like it goes all the way out to like 7200 west. So that's a wide range, right? If you're close to I-15, it's going to be a little bit more valuable. If you're further out on 7200 west, less valuable at this time. But I do think there will be a lot of demand in that area over the long run. So hopefully that helps. Do you have anything to add, Randy?
No, I mean, I've always kind of liked Glendale prior to the explosion of the market. That's where I was able to get in my lower, first-time home buyers. It's such a great area. It's definitely turning over. The investors are kind of pulling out because they saw the potential to make their money and run. So you're getting those pride of ownership owners getting to jump in there at a better rate than you would at the as you called it, the nicer east side. You're able to get in there close to all the amenities, and as more people move in and take pride and ownership of the area, it's going to skyrocket. I absolutely love Glendale.
Yeah. I think that whole area, Rose Park, which is to the north, and then you've got Poplar Grove, which is right there to the south. To the west, and then kind of moving down into Glendale, which is more like. Oh man, sorry. I picked up Siri. I'm not sure if that messed up my audio, but Glendale, which is kind of more to the west or to the south. I think those areas will just see a lot of growth and appreciation over the next little bit. I think I mentioned on the last live stream, I think Rose Park will probably be one of the highest appreciating areas over the next 5 to 10 years. So just because of the turnover. Can you still hear me okay, Randy?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So a question about condos and apartments having a small garden. Townhomes might. Condos, apartments, probably not, unless it's a community type
patio
thing.
garden, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a patio garden, but that's basically it. All right, Juan, I had to come back to your question. Is the rental market good as far as home rentals go? So I assume that you're asking from the
investor side, I would think.
My Siri keeps popping up. I assume that you're asking from the perspective of, hey, Randy, take it over. I got to fix my Siri.
Yeah, no problem. I guess, did one jump down in the comments? Are you asking, is the rental market good from like an investor's perspective? Like you want to know, are you going to have someone that'll rent your property pretty quickly? Because if that's the prospect you're trying to take, I mean, rentals are definitely in high demand here. Oh, you want to rent? I got you. Rentals are in high demand as well. Okay.
Yeah. I'm seeing rent in the same boat. I talked to somebody earlier today that was trying to rent a house. I think they're looking in like the 1,600 to 1,800 range, and they're running into the same thing where there's just a lot of people looking. And landlords or property managers are accepting applicants, and then they basically just pick whoever's most qualified, right? Kind of just like you would if you were selling a home. So it does make it tough. Being a landlord myself, I always tell prospective tenants, like, hey, just call the landlord or the property manager and just ask them, just ask them questions, ask about the place. and tell them about your situation and just say, here's where I'm at, what are you looking for? And just like have an honest conversation with them. Because I talk to a lot of people who try to just, beat around the bush or just kind of waste my time, or I don't know. It's just kind of weird with rental market. It just seems like anyway, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I would just say, call the landlord, call the property manager, and just say, here's where I'm at. I'm moving from out of state, or I already live here. I'm in a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever it may be. And just tell them about your situation and see what you can do to rent their place, and just try to get on their good side, right? A lot of that rapport and networking and just kind of presenting yourself as their ideal tenant will be, the person that they're looking for. All right. Kate, just listed your house in Dallas. Excited to start looking here in Salt Lake City in the spring. Yeah, we're happy to do another live. I had to get Randy here on the show. The show, I guess we call it a show, on the live stream, and talk about the market. So that's really cool. I'm curious to hear. Maybe you can drop a comment, Kate, about the market in Dallas, if it's just as crazy as it is here. I've heard that pretty much all of Texas is in the same boat. A lot of people moving from California or from Midwest areas like that to Texas, just because of low cost of living and all the job opportunities there as well. So yeah, still like Salt Lake, you're on your way. That's good. That's good, Juan. I'm glad. I think that, man, there's so much opportunity here. That's the only way I can sum it up here. A lot of people I've talked to are just, everybody who moves here always, whenever I talk to them after the fact, they always say, there's just so much opportunity. There's so much to do, whether it's jobs or it's recreation or it's entertainment or anything like that. There's just a lot to do. And, there's no limit of it. After you live here for a while, I mean, for myself, like I've kind of gotten just like jaded, in a way. I'm just like, man, we have like all these awesome mountains, we get the snow and the seasons, and we can do any outdoor activity, and we've got everything we need here. And, so I try to remind myself of that it's like, hey, we live in a really good spot, and there's a lot of people who want to move here and would love to live here. All right, let me do this here. I'm going to pull this over, share screen. All right, so we got the screen back up. And what I want to show you guys here, let me get that out of the way. Okay, so coming back up to the bird's eye view, if we zoom all the way out, we talked a little bit about this on the last live stream, but I just want to talk about this a little bit more here. So what we're seeing with the market, we've got Salt Lake County here in the middle. We've got Davis County to the north, and then we've got Ogden County up here as well, or excuse me, Weber County, which is where Ogden is located. And this is going to be the two counties that Randy's going to be covering. So this is going to cover everything from basically like North Ogden, maybe up to Brigham City. I don't know. We'll see how far Randy will go. If you want to buy, maybe we'll make it work. The cool thing about Utah, on that note, that I've got to say is, like, even though it's a long distance, let's say from Ogden to Salt Lake, it's probably only like the 40-minute drive from like downtown Ogden to downtown Salt Lake. Yeah, it's probably like 35, 40 minutes. So you can drive a really long distance without having to, you can drive a long distance and it might be 40 miles, but it takes you 40 minutes, right? So we don't have like the crazy traffic that a lot of other cities see. So even though, maybe Randy's like, he's going to be living here in Riverdale, which is, if we zoom in here, that's not what I wanted to do. Kind of basically just right here in the middle, basically right halfway between Ogden and Bountiful, just kind of right here in this general area. He could theoretically make the drive to Ogden. It's probably only 10, 15 minutes, if that, to get into Ogden, or if he's coming down here to Farmington or Bountiful, again, probably 15 minutes. So not really that long of a drive or anything like that. So same thing for me. If, coming down here to the south, I'm in Sandy. So I cover all of Salt Lake, all of Utah County, and then, even going into Park City and over west to Tooele for the same reason. So that's one of the really cool things. A lot of people will choose to live further out because they have the opportunity to, let's say live in Harriman, but then they work downtown. So even though it's a fairly good distance, the drive time is probably 30, 40 minutes, depending on traffic and weather. And that's the reason why we're so spread out here. It's just because there's that opportunity where you don't have to live so close. You don't have to live like, 5 minutes away or 5 miles away, but it still takes you an hour to get there, type of thing. All right. Kate, thanks for sharing some perspective on Dallas. Dallas market is strong. Definitely not as crazy as Austin, but hopefully your house sells quickly. I hope so too. That'd be awesome. You can get here just in time for summer, get out of that Texas heat. I have heard that Austin is just absolutely crazy right now with just all the jobs and the tech scene and Tesla building their factory there and, all these people moving there. It's just absolutely insane. Daniel, living in Phoenix and wanting to return to Salt Lake. The market is so crazy there, but not sure you can make the move. Okay. Well, let me know how we can help, first of all. Best thing I could say is, now's a good time to make that move before that Phoenix heat rolls around. I don't know. I don't know how you guys put up with like 110 or 115. That's just, if it's 95 outside, I'm complaining. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Johnny, let me show you exactly where Randy's house is going to be. No, I'm just kidding.
So zoom it in. I'll point it.
Yeah, we'll point it out. So Randy, just for context, Johnny is him and his wife just moved here. How long has it been, Johnny? Probably 6 months. They bought a house in Clinton.
Awesome.
So they live in Clinton here. They're going to be buying another house probably closer down here to Salt Lake, but they're located up there and just have been long time listeners of the live stream here. Johnny's always around. So he's going to be in Riverdale, which isn't that right here?
Riverdale is, if you scroll up just a little bit, right there, here. That nice little light spot, right there by the airport.
Yeah, I was getting confused with South Weber. So he's going to be right here in Riverdale, which is kind of on the just south end of Ogden. So hopefully that answers your question, Johnny. Yeah, 6 months. It's been about 6 months. Yeah, that's crazy. I guess it was October. On one hand, it feels like it was so much longer than that. On the other hand, it feels like it was, just like a couple months ago. Shane, you want to hear about Ogden? I've been there a few times and believe it's Utah's best kept secret. So, Randy, what are your thoughts on Ogden? Tell us what you know.
Man, Ogden is definitely one of my guilty pleasures. I don't know what our listeners like, but coming from Florida, you like to relax on the beach, have a good time. Obviously don't have a ton of beaches here in Utah, but if you go to Ogden, you can find yourself a little restaurant tucked away, little pub-esque area. Sit down, enjoy the views. You can you can hike out in Ogden. Some of the best stuff up here by the golf course. It's a good time. Without going into specifics of restaurants and breweries that are there, it is really a good spot to be. It's definitely a big enough city to have like the metropolitan feel, but it is definitely not Salt Lake. It's small enough to where you can enjoy yourself and spread out, like you were saying, the suburban sprawl. You definitely get to enjoy the space in Ogden without getting the claustrophobia that can come from big city.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with you. My thoughts on Ogden. Ogden's been around for a long time. I always look at, just in general, for Davis and Weber County, I always kind of consider this more to be on the like industrial and manufacturing side, kind of more like blue collar type jobs, just generally speaking. When you compare that to like Utah or Salt Lake County, Utah and Salt Lake County kind of leans more white collar, whereas Davis and Weber is kind of more blue collar. So I'm not saying that's necessarily good or bad or anything. It's just that you'll see that, the big part of what Ogden is there for is for the rail yards. So you'll see rail yards there. They've got a lot of shipping. So that kind of controls a lot of the industry there. And then you've also got the Air Force Base, which is right down here. So this whole area is the entire Air Force Base. And so a lot of military people there in the area that all live, everywhere. They live to the west, the south, the north. They live in Ogden, anywhere here. So that's the thing about Ogden is you get a lot of people who work in like manufacturing or shipping or industrial type jobs, and then a lot of military as well. So those are kind of the two industries there. You do have Weber State University, which is kind of here on the southeast part of town. A lot of like college kids here, but also a lot of nice houses, a lot of university students that are, studying anything you can think of. And then you've got the ski resort here, Snow Basin. Really popular ski resort. I know a lot of people who drive from Salt Lake, even though they've got access to so much stuff in Salt Lake County, they'll even make the drive to Snow Basin just because it's less crowded and because they like the mountain so much. So it's actually a really cool ski resort. I've only been there once. I really enjoyed it, but that was a long time ago while I was in high school. So yeah, Ogden's great. It's kind of got the metropolitan feel, like Randy said, but definitely smaller than Salt Lake overall. So really good city. I think it's going to continue to boom. Good thing about regarding it or relating it back to housing prices. Prices are still pretty low in Ogden compared to Salt Lake or Utah County. So that's a big plus there as well. All right. Yeah, Johnny, hopefully that helps. Hind, you made it. I'm glad you're on the live stream. Let me show you Cedar Hills here to answer your question. Come all the way down here. Okay, so let me zoom in here just a little bit. Moving to the northern part of Utah County, the main let's see, how do I describe this? The main point of Utah County, in my mind, is generally Provo. That's kind of like the main hub, but I think the main the heart of the county and kind of the future growth is going to be here in Lehi. So everything right here is Lehi. This is kind of the main tech corridor. This is where most of the growth is happening. If you're moving to Utah County, a lot of that growth is going to be situated around Lehi. So it could be Lehi here or the Provo-Orem area here. I'm seeing a lot of tech companies actually come to this area just because you've got better access. And man, I don't know why my Siri keeps popping up. That's kind of weird. But nevertheless, you've got access to everything out here, which is Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs. There's a lot of homes out here and a lot of land to build on. So there's a lot of growth happening out here. So that's why everything kind of centers around Lehi here, at least in my opinion. I think that's kind of the heart of it and where we're going to see the most growth. So you do have Highland, and then you also have Alpine up here. These are higher end areas. Homes typically do end up on the higher price range for the houses here. So median price could be anywhere from, for this area, you're probably looking like $600,000-$700,000 would be the median price, which is just higher than what you see in Salt Lake County. You do have the Alpine Country Club here, and then Cedar Hills Golf Club, and then Cedar Hills sits right here. So to get to your question here, Cedar Hills is very much I don't want to call it a small town because it's still kind of just on the suburbs of like Lehi or the Provo-Orem area, but it does sit up on the east bench here. So if we go to the satellite view, you can see that you've got the Wasatch Mountains here along the east side, and then Cedar Hills sits right in here in this area. So you can get awesome homes really close to the mountains if you want to go out hiking after work or, first thing in the morning, you can do that. So it's really cool to be able to have the flexibility to do that. And there's just a lot of growth happening in the area. It's the thing that I like about Cedar Hills, having just, driven around there, showed houses there, all of that stuff is it's an area that seems like it's very low key, but it's still close to like Lehi. It's still close to Provo or Orem, and it's still close to the mountains. So you get kind of the best of everything in that sense, where you're not so far out that it's like a long drive into the city or anything, but you're close enough that you are you're close enough into the city that you've got access to that, but you're close to the mountains as well. So you get kind of the best of everything living there in that area. Home prices will also be higher here. This whole kind of eastern part of this area, home prices will be higher for there as well. So let me see if I can do this. Perfect. So hopefully that helps. I hope that answers your question. We will be looking at that house for you this weekend, by the way. Hope you're excited. All right. If you guys have questions, let us know. Drop a question in the comment box. If you're thinking about making a move here to Utah, make sure to reach out to us. Information is in the description box below. Call, text, email anytime. Shoot me an email. That's usually best, just so we can get a general idea of where you're at in your journey to make the move here to Salt Lake. Like I said, if you're looking in Salt Lake County or Utah County, I'm going to be your go-to. If you're looking up north, Davis or Weber County, Randy's going to be your guy moving forward. So I can help you get in touch with him. And at this point, we're basically, working the entire Wasatch Front. So if you're thinking about making that move here, reach out to us. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up here on the video. I really appreciate it. Helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we release videos like this, or we'll do live streams. We're probably going to be doing like 1, maybe 2 live streams a month. And then Randy will be doing, probably about one video a month on the northern part of the state. And then I will continue my general posting stream, doing typically about 1 to maybe 2 videos a week, just about what you need to know about living here in Salt Lake City or anywhere surrounding. So let's see what we've got here. Hello from Dubai. Oh, I pulled up the wrong comment. Yeah, hello. Tell Jamal hi for me. Can't wait for you guys to make it here. That's going to be such a long move, but it's going to be so cool. Daniel, what do I think about Tooele? Tooele, so I used to say, hey, Tooele is kind of like a small town. Not so much. Tooele has really blown up. A lot of people who live out here in Tooele are like, it's just crazy out there. A lot of people will live in Tooele and then they make the move into downtown. So it's probably like a 45-minute drive depending on traffic. There's a lot of land out there, and there's a lot of growth potential as well. So if I pull up the satellite view, you can see, let me zoom out here just a little bit. You can see that there's a lot of farmland. So you've got Tooele down here. You've got Erta, which is just kind of this small city, mostly farming land there. You've got Stansbury Park, which is really popular. And then out here to the west, you've got Grantsville. So this, for us here in Utah, we'd kind of consider all this to be Tooele necessarily, although it's all Tooele County. But you do have Tooele, the city, which is down here on the southeast section of that. So growing like crazy. Grantsville's growing like crazy. Stansbury Park is growing like crazy. I think the good side is that housing's going to be cheaper there. You can get a little bit more bang for your buck. But the downside is that the thing I always hear from people is that they can kind of complain about is that the only road into Salt Lake is I-80 or SR 201, but basically you have to come around this mountain here in order to get into Salt Lake. So if there's ever a crash or there's bad weather here along this road, it can be 2 hours to get into the city. I mean, I've heard of people basically just having to take the whole day off because they can't get into the city, right? They're trying to make this drive. And the thing is, you've got this mountain range here, which will kind of, there's no roads that go through the mountain range. And then you've got the Great Salt Lake up here to the northwest. And so as storm clouds roll over this area, the thing that makes the snow here in Utah so great is that the clouds will pick up all this moisture from the Great Salt Lake, and then it comes over here, and then it drops it all here in these mountains. So anyway, that's another topic talking about weather. But what happens is it basically you get a lot of snow coming across the freeway here. So if there's ever a wreck or anything like that, making that commute can be dangerous, and it can also be, it can turn into hours at a time. So just something to know there. Johnny, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And Mr. DF, Mrs. DF, thank you so much. I hope that was helpful for you to answer some questions about Glendale and your property there. So we will stick around for just a couple more minutes here. If you guys have questions, let us know. As always, if you're thinking about making a move here, reach out to us. If you got questions, leave them in the comment section below and we will answer them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can stay updated on all the videos that we're going to be releasing here. I've got some really cool video ideas coming up, and just a lot of really cool topics for the channel here. So I'm really excited. We're going to be doing more live streams like this. We'll probably get, I've got a couple other people in mind that I want to bring onto the live stream here. So thinking about getting a lender on here to answer any of your loan questions that you guys might have. And then also getting a potentially property manager on here or something to kind of talk about the rental market. If you don't know, for us here in Utah, we don't work in the rental market. I know that I get a lot of questions from people from New York or California, and they say, hey, can you help me find a rental? And unfortunately for us as realtors, we just don't do that here. I don't know why. It's just, different norm for us. So we don't work in the rental market. Randy and I are still happy to give you advice as far as hey, look in this area, look in that area, or this is a good price for that place, or, consider this, consider that. We can still give you advice and whatnot. But as far as actually finding a rental and moving into it, you as the tenant would just basically reach out to the landlord directly or the property manager and work with them directly. So just keep that in mind. Sean, your question about St. George. No, we do not service St. George. However, I do know agents in that area that I could help get you in touch with if you need it. So just let me know if you're looking for somebody down there. that's a rock star and can help take care of your relocation needs. St. George is quite a ways away. It's about 4 hours from Salt Lake. So it is, let's see if we go here. It is quite a ways away. So a little bit tough to get to for house showings and stuff, unfortunately. Yeah, if we zoom out all the way, so you can see Salt Lake City is up here, the northern part. St. George is all the way down here in the bottom left corner. So St. George is really cool. The thing I love about living up here in Salt Lake is literally, I mean, just coming down here to all of these national parks in the St. George area, the landscape just changes so dramatically to the red rock that Utah is famous for. I mean, you can see that here all along the map. St. George specifically, all the way over here to the east. You've got Grand Staircase Escalante. You've got the Glen Canyon, which is like Lake Powell. You've got Canyonlands over here. You've got Moab, which is your main city there. You've got Arches up here to the north of Moab, and then Canyonlands sits here to the southwest. So you get all that famous red rock, and that's all, 3 hours away, 3 to 4 hours away, depending on where you're going. So it's really cool there. Daniel, your question, what's the best strategy if you have a home in Phoenix and want to buy in Salt Lake? That's a great question. Randy, what would you recommend?
I think it really depends on where you are in your life, right? I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, do you have the capability of holding that home and purchasing a new home in a new area? I think that's where my questions come in, right? Because looking at real estate as an asset, and if Daniel could hold the home in Phoenix, I would personally hold the home in Phoenix, knowing that it is a great hub area, and I could rent it, right? I could put someone in there and have them pay off my mortgage, and then I would go buy a home where I want to be, right, in Salt Lake. So if you've been in that home for 2 years, I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of some FHA financing, right? You can use that. You don't necessarily need a huge down payment. In Utah, we have great access to grant programs like Utah Housing. Sometimes you don't even need a down payment, right? If you work with the right realtors, they can get you into a home with a good lender with zero out of pocket. So it all depends on where you want to be. And in terms of building long-term wealth, I would say line up your ability to purchase in Salt Lake and then rent out your home in Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as real estate agents, there's often times where a lot of my clients, I'll advise them not to sell their house and to actually keep it. If they want to build long-term wealth and they're not afraid of being a landlord, I'll advise them to say, hey, keep the house, hold on to it as an asset. Yeah, that means that I don't get your business necessarily from selling the house, but it's going to be better for you in the long run. So if you're in that spot, Daniel, where you can keep it, by all means do that. If you're not interested in that at all, and you're like, look, I just need to offload this house, get out of Phoenix and move on to the next chapter, I would say, your best bet is probably to try and sell the home in Phoenix. I know that Phoenix is a hot market. I know a lot of agents down there. My recommendation would be to sell your home in Phoenix, but negotiate the ability to lease back the home from the new buyer, or just get a delayed possession date from them as well. So, it may depend on the house that you have there, but if you can sell the home to somebody and then say, hey, I want to rent it for 2 or 3 months, if the buyer is willing to let you do that, that gives you the flexibility where you can take the money from your house there in Phoenix, hold on to that money and put it into the new house here in Salt Lake, and still be able to purchase, where you're not going to have that mortgage counting against you. You have the down payment that you need for the next house. You've got all the funds, and you can kind of basically just stay in the house, rent it for a month or two, and then make that move here. So that, in my opinion, would probably be like the best strategy if you're trying to sell the house. But basically sell that one. Okay, yeah. So you said you want to sell in Phoenix and buy in Salt Lake. So that's what I would recommend doing. Everybody's in a little bit different situation though. So if it were possible, sell the home in Phoenix, try to negotiate a lease back or a delayed possession date from the buyer. And that'll give you the flexibility to know that you've got that home off your books. You'll have the equity from that home and be able to move that money into your new home here in Salt Lake, and then basically just pack everything up there and then make the move up here as you hand over the keys to the buyer of the home there in Salt Lake, or excuse me, in Phoenix. So that being said, I know that Phoenix is in a hot market. I know a lot of agents down there. and you shouldn't have any issues with that, with getting it sold. So yeah, seasoned property owner, there you go. So whatever you're looking to do, if you've done this before, you probably have a pretty good idea of different options. So that's what I'm seeing gives you the most flexibility, if it's possible. And the good thing about that is that you're in a market where you should be able to make that happen, where you can sell the home and then, as part of that, be able to negotiate a good deal on the from the buyer to give you some extra time before you have to move out. So, all right, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think a good approach for Daniel would be to, get in touch with a realtor via, your sphere, or if you know someone that's close to you there in Phoenix, seeing what your home is worth. If you don't know what it's worth, right? The markets are so crazy right now. Sometimes owners don't really know how much equity they have. And then you can kind of base that, contact your favorite loan officer and say, hey, looking to make the move to Salt Lake. What can I buy? And that kind of lets you know where you can be, right? Because I mean, if you're out of that first time home buyer range in the Salt Lake market, you may not necessarily need a huge lease back. You can jump right in on the competition here in the second home market. So I think you kind of need to know where you are. I wouldn't say list your home right away, but in Phoenix, understand exactly where ballpark range within a couple $1,000s, if you can, where your house is going to sell for, and there how much liquidity you're going to carry over. Take that answer to another professional in the industry, a loan officer, know how much you can qualify for, and then map out from there, right? If the numbers work and you want a home in Salt Lake, then take your home in Phoenix to the market and then come and compete.
Yeah. It's basically all a planning game, and that's what we're here for, at least as far as Salt Lake side goes. I mean, we've got lenders that can help you with that. If you need to finance, if you're paying cash, you're going to be just fine. So we'd have to get some more context as to your specific situation, but hopefully that helps a little bit, Daniel. You've been there for 20 years. Should have kept the 1916 bungalow just south of Liberty Park. Yeah. In Liberty Wells, that would have been a great option if you're moving back there.
Nice spot right now, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you bought that house 20 years ago, I mean, there's a good chance it's worth 450, 500, 550 now. So, that's what happens. Maybe you'll be saying the same thing about your Phoenix house in 20 years too. So tough to say, but hopefully that helps. So with that being said, guys, last call for questions. We'll stick around here and see if anybody else has questions. Let us know. We'll answer anything we can about Salt Lake. If you got questions about houses, areas, the process, financing, paying cash, snow, pandemic, winter, summer, anything. Questions. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up right there. I'm not seeing anything else come through. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up here on the video if you enjoyed it. Lets us know that you like this information and would like to see more of it here on the channel. Like I said, we'll be doing one of these. We'll probably do about one live stream a month, maybe two if we get lucky and have the time for it. So reach out to us. Information's in the description. Send an email to me. We'll get you in touch. If you're looking up north, I'll get you in touch with Randy. If you're looking anywhere else down south, Salt Lake County, Utah County, or the like, I'll be your contact for that. And can't wait to hear from you. We get contacts from all across the world. As you saw earlier, we had somebody from Dubai here listening in, which is really, really cool. And so people from all across the world, as close as St. George, Utah to halfway around the world in Dubai. So it's really cool to just see all these different people reaching out, watching two guys on YouTube and talking real estate and helping you make the move here. So that's really cool. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Sean, thanks for watching. Really helpful, or I'm glad it was really helpful. Thank you for tuning in. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so to stay up to date when we do these live streams and release these new videos just like this. And get in touch with us. Can't wait to see you guys. With that, we will see you in the next one.
Take care, guys.